You felt it before, haven't you? That strange pull in the pit of your stomach. The sense that you've lived this moment before, said those words, walked that path, made that choice. You call it déjà vu. You brush it off. But what if it's something more? What if it's not a glitch in your memory, but a ripple in time, evidence that your soul has walked this very path over and over again? What if you're stuck in a soul loop and you don't even know it? This isn't fantasy. It's not even speculation. Some of the most groundbreaking scientists and physicists, like John Wheeler, the mind behind the participatory universe theory, have dared to say what others won't: that reality itself may be cyclical, that we're not just observers of time, but participants in a system that loops itself. And unless we become aware, we play the same script again and again, forever thinking we're making new choices, while we're simply repeating an echo. Today's message isn't just a theory, it's a wake-up call, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's begin with a simple truth that quantum physics has made impossible to ignore. Reality doesn't exist until it's observed. Subatomic particles, those building blocks of all matter, don't settle into a single form until we look at them. Before we observe them, they exist in multiple possibilities at once. A blur, a wave of options, but the moment we look, the wave collapses into one, as if reality is waiting for us to choose, as if it needs us to become real. Now pause, let that idea settle into your bones, because if the world behaves this way, at the smallest level, what does that say about your life, your choices, your memories? What if the life you're living right now only became real because your consciousness focused on it? And what if you've been focusing on the same version again and again? This is the mystery of the soul loop, a loop that doesn't trap you physically, but vibrationally, energetically. Your thoughts, your emotions, your expectations, these are the code. And unless that code changes, the simulation reloads. Same lessons, same heartbreaks, same revelations, just wearing different masks. Renowned physicist John Wheeler dared to ask, is the universe self-observing? Is it possible that we bring reality into being simply by becoming aware of it? His theory doesn't stop at science, it crosses into mysticism. Because if your awareness shapes reality, then reality is not something you're trapped in. It's something you're continuously building. But what happens when the builder falls asleep? When you forget you're shaping the world and begin to believe it's shaping you? That's when the loop forms. That's when you start running programs written by fear, by conditioning, by past versions of yourself who didn't know they were in control. So, are you stuck in a loop? Think of your life right now. Are the lessons repeating? The relationships different in form, but the same in feeling? Are your dreams haunted by symbols you don't understand, but feel deeply familiar? These aren't coincidences. These are echoes. Your soul remembering other versions of this life, other runs through the simulation, where the same challenges waited for you on the same roads. This idea might sound overwhelming until you realize it gives you the power back. Because here's the secret. The loop is sustained by unconsciousness. But the moment you become aware, you begin to rewrite the pattern. The moment you look at your life and say, I've seen this before, you interrupt the signal. You create a space between the repetition and the next choice. And that space is everything. That space is liberation. This is why ancient mystics, sages, and even modern physicists all seem to whisper the same message. Know thyself. Observe your thoughts. Witness your reality. They're not just offering spiritual guidance. They're giving you the key to collapse the loop, to change the program, to tune into a timeline your soul hasn't walked before. And this brings us to quantum immortality, the idea that there are infinite versions of you, living out every possible outcome of every possible decision, that in each version of this loop, there is a you who wakes up, a you who breaks the cycle. A you who chooses differently, not just once, but enough times in a row to shatter the illusion that you're stuck. Let that version of you rise, because once you become aware of the loop, you're no longer a prisoner of it. You become the observer. And in quantum reality, the observer changes everything. So if the loop is real, if you're walking a road that's curved and bending back on itself, how would you know? The truth is, you already do. You've seen the signs. You've felt the shifts. That moment when you knew what someone was about to say before they spoke. That dream that played out in real life days later. The strange familiarity of a place you've never visited. These are not accidents. They are bleed-throughs, fragments of overlapping timelines pressing against your perception, not because you're broken, because you're waking up. Quantum physics tells us that the universe isn't made of stuff. It's made of probabilities, waves of potential. Until observed, nothing is definite. So what happens when you live life without truly observing it? You default. You loop. You live out the most familiar version, the most practiced outcome, the one your subconscious has rehearsed 1,000 times. That's what scientists call the dominant signal, and it always wins. So while your conscious mind may scream, "I want change," the field is listening to your nervous system, to your breath, to your tension, to your real frequency. And if that frequency hasn't changed, the simulation reloads. This is why most people stay stuck, not because they don't want to grow, but because they don't know they're carrying the blueprint of their loop in their body. They don't know that their emotions are encoding the script, that their beliefs are feeding the system. And so they try to manifest a new life with the same inner code. And nothing changes. Here's where things get deeper. John Wheeler's participatory universe theory doesn't just suggest that we help observe the universe into being, it hints that we help design it. That consciousness doesn't just witness the program, it writes it. In other words, the universe is not a machine, it's a feedback loop, a mirror, a hologram shaped by the awareness it contains. And if you are aware, then you are not the passenger, you are the participant, the coder, the catalyst. Now imagine what that means for your life. Imagine that every moment you've called reality is just one rendering among countless possibilities. That right now, in this moment, there are infinite versions of you living out different choices. And the only reason you're in this one is because your vibration aligned with it. So the question becomes, if you want to shift, how do you tune to a new version of you? Not with force, not with repetition, not with hollow affirmations, with coherence. You see, coherence is when your mind, your body, and your emotions are aligned. It's when your thoughts say, "I am free," and your breath confirms it. When your body softens instead of braces, when your heart opens instead of hides, when every layer of your being is broadcasting the same signal, that's coherence. And that's when the quantum responds. Because here's the paradox. You don't break the loop by escaping it. You break the loop by becoming a frequency that no longer belongs inside it. And when you do, the system updates, the program shifts. The old version of you can't run in the new code. But beware, because just before the shift comes resistance. Your loop is familiar, safe, predictable. It knows you, and it will try to pull you back, through fear, through self-doubt, through that little voice that says, "You've tried this before. Why would it work now?" But remember, the loop only survives if you believe it's still the only option. So when the fear rises, pause, breathe, witness. Remind yourself, this is the moment the loop gets weaker and I get stronger. Because the more you watch it without participating, the more you drain its power, the more you soften into presence instead of collapsing into reaction, the more you shift your frequency. And the moment your frequency changes, the path changes with it. This is not just spiritual theory, it's quantum law. You collapse the wave into the version of reality you are vibrationally aligned with. Not what you wish for, not what you chase, but what you embody. And embodiment doesn't require perfection, it requires consistency, return, practice, presence. So what does this look like practically? It means you wake up and ask, which version of me am I aligning with today? It means you notice when your body contracts and you choose to breathe instead. It means you catch the story of failure rising in your mind and you rewrite it with truth. It means you speak like someone who knows they are free. You move like someone who knows they are whole. You decide like someone who knows they are no longer stuck. And as you do, the loop begins to unravel. Not all at once, but moment by moment, ripple by ripple, and the new timeline, the one that was always waiting, starts to appear. Not because you forced it, because you remembered. It was you all along. So now you're beginning to see it. The loop isn't a punishment. It's a reflection. It's not here to trap you. It's here to show you what you keep choosing unconsciously. And once you see the pattern, it no longer owns you. This is where the soul loop starts to weaken. When awareness enters, the illusion loses its grip. But to truly escape the loop, you have to understand why it formed in the first place, not just in your lifetime, but across lifetimes, across timelines. Quantum physicists have proposed a radical idea, quantum immortality. The theory suggests that every time you face a life or death decision, your consciousness splits, continuing only in the reality where you survive. From your point of view, you never die. You just shift into the next version of the simulation. You keep waking up. You keep living. Over and over. And in this endless survival, you accumulate echoes, shadows of choices made in other versions of you. You carry the imprint of lives you don't even remember. Ever felt an unexplainable fear in a situation that shouldn't scare you? A grief that doesn't belong to this moment? An instinct that seems to come from nowhere? These may be residues of your quantum self, your soul moving through layers of reality, not metaphorically, literally. So now consider this. If you are immortal across timelines, but unaware, wouldn't you eventually feel like you're stuck? Wouldn't life start to repeat itself, not because the world is looping, but because you are? Because you're unknowingly choosing the same survival strategies, the same beliefs, the same emotional reactions, lifetime after lifetime. The loop doesn't just live in your mind, it lives in your energetic body, the field that surrounds and interpenetrates you, and unless that field is updated, you're running old data through new experiences. You're trying to build a new future with yesterday's code. And this is where the concept of the holographic universe becomes crucial. Physicists studying black holes made a shocking discovery. When something falls into a black hole, the information about that object isn't lost. It's stored on the surface like a cosmic hard drive. From this, they theorized that all of reality might work this way. That what we see as 3D life is actually a holographic projection of data encoded on a 2D boundary. Now stay with me. If reality is a projection, then so is your identity, your memories, your personality. What you call you might be the 3D rendering of code stored beyond the veil. And here's the kicker. If the code doesn't change, neither does the projection. If your energetic body is broadcasting a script of fear, lack, or guilt, then the universe will keep projecting it, no matter how many times you try to change your external circumstances. This is the real reason people loop. It's not just spiritual, it's not just psychological, it's structural. The hologram is replaying the same file over and over until someone goes into the source code and edits it. So how do you edit the code? You don't rewrite it through force. You don't reprogram it with affirmations layered on top of unresolved trauma. You change it with frequency. You change it with embodiment. You change it when your inner state becomes so coherent, so attuned to the timeline you desire, that the projection has to update. This is not theory. This is how the quantum field works. So let's talk about coherence again, because this is your exit key. Coherence happens when your thoughts, your feelings, and your body are all saying the same thing. When you don't just think, I am free, you feel it, you breathe it, you act from it. That's when your frequency becomes undeniable. That's when the field must mirror it. Here's an example. Imagine you're trying to shift into a reality of abundance, but every time you pay a bill, you tense. Every time you check your account, you panic. Every time you think of money, you feel shame. That tension is your loop, and no amount of conscious affirmations will override it until your body releases the signal of fear, until your breath softens, until you spend as though you trust, even in small symbolic ways. Because the loop isn't broken by grand gestures, it's broken by micro shifts, by walking differently, speaking differently, reacting differently, and most of all, not reacting when the old loop tries to bait you. You see, the soul loop is smart. It will disguise itself as logic. It will say, play it safe, don't trust, stay small. But now you know better. Now you see the trap, and seeing it is the beginning of liberation. But there's one more level we need to talk about. One more layer of the loop. Retrocausality. The idea that the future can influence the past. Let that land. If this is true, and quantum experiments suggest it might be, it means that you in the future, the version of you who is already free, might be sending signals back. Flashes of insight, gut feelings, déjà vu, dreams. It means your escape isn't just about moving forward, it's about remembering, receiving messages you already sent from the other side of the loop. So the question isn't just, can I break free? It's, can I listen closely enough to remember the path I already chose? Because the moment you do, the loop collapses, and in its place, a new timeline begins to unfold. So you've come this far, you've looked the loop in the eye, you've felt the pattern pressing on your memories, whispering through déjà vu, tugging at the corners of your intuition, and now the real question emerges. If all of this is true, if we are cycling through realities shaped by thought, frequency, and unconscious expectation, then what breaks the cycle once and for all? The answer isn't force, it's not strategy, it's consciousness. You've heard of quantum entanglement, the eerie phenomenon where two particles, once connected, continue to affect each other no matter how far apart they are. Change one, and the other changes instantly, even across galaxies. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. But what if it's not just about particles? What if it's about people, about timelines, about versions of you still out there, entangled through the unseen web of soul memory? Pause for a moment. Think of someone you love, someone you feel deeply connected to. Have you ever sensed their emotions before they spoke them? Felt their presence from miles away? Knew they were about to call right before your phone lit up? These aren't coincidences. They're echoes, threads of entanglement stretching across dimensions. Now imagine this. If you are entangled across multiple versions of yourself, what does that mean for your ability to shift? It means you don't have to fight to create something new. You simply have to tune into the version of yourself who already lives the truth you seek, the version who already broke the loop, the version who chose trust over fear, the version who stopped hiding from their own power. That version is real, and you're entangled with it. The signal is already being broadcast. It's just faint, buried beneath the noise of your past selves, your habits, your conditioned doubt. But the more still you become, the more present, the more you listen rather than push, the stronger the signal becomes, until you're no longer reaching for a new life, you're matching it. This is quantum alignment. This is soul coherence. This is how you collapse the loop. But let's get practical, because right now, the loop still tries to reassert itself in small, sneaky ways. It will whisper thoughts like, "This isn't working. Nothing's changed. You're making this up." But that's not truth. That's inertia. The field stabilizing the past, because that's what it knows. And your job is to introduce something it doesn't know. A new reaction, a new pattern, a new vibration. When you feel fear rise but choose to breathe anyway, you break the loop. When you feel the old story calling you back but speak a new truth, you break the loop. When you walk through your day as if you are already free, already whole, already aligned, you shift the entire structure of your timeline, because this universe is listening. And here's the part you're not supposed to know. It's not listening to what you want. It's listening to who you are, right now. That means you don't need to wait for a cosmic sign. You are the sign. You don't need to wait for permission. You are the permission. So let's go deeper into embodiment. This isn't about fake it till you make it. It's about become it until there's no difference left. Let's say you want to shift into a timeline of deep, safe love. Ask yourself, how would I walk if I believed I was already loved? How would I breathe, speak, or carry my body if I knew I was already chosen? And then, do that. Even if your voice trembles, even if your heart still remembers pain, because the field doesn't require you to be fearless. It just requires you to be faithful to your signal, faithful to your practice, faithful to the new story, even when the old one still echoes in the room. And when you do this, something strange happens. The world begins to move differently. Doors open where there were only walls. People appear who mirror your new frequency. Opportunities align, not because you chased them, but because you matched them. This is the new science of reality. This is the old wisdom of the soul, and now it's yours to live. So ask yourself now, what would it mean to stop reacting to life and start creating it? What would it mean to live not as the victim of a soul loop, but as the conscious architect of your next dimension? Because this is where the real shift begins, not in theory, not in concept, but in daily practice, in breath, in choice, in presence. This is how you dissolve the loop. And in its place, you don't just find freedom. You find your true self, the one that was buried beneath the code all along. So here we are, at the edge of the loop, the place where awareness meets embodiment and choice becomes a portal, not just into a better life, but into an entirely new dimension of being. If you've made it this far, you already feel it, the tug, the opening, the ancient part of you that remembers something deeper. And now, the question is no longer, am I stuck? It's, am I willing to live as if I've already broken free? Because that is the key. The loop cannot survive your conscious embodiment. It feeds on unconscious reaction, on programmed responses, on cycles you're too distracted to notice. But once you begin to walk differently, breathe differently, speak as the version of you who is already free, then the loop has nothing left to sustain it. The timeline collapses, and a new one unfolds. So how do you live that way every day? How do you sustain the new frequency, even when your old reality still tries to pull you back? The answer is micro-alignment. You don't need massive transformation. You need daily integrity, tiny decisions that say to the universe, I'm done with the loop. It's choosing trust when doubt whispers. It's pausing to breathe before reacting. It's walking with your head high, even when the old thoughts try to make you shrink. Every time you choose coherence over chaos, presence over panic, truth over repetition, you send a ripple through the field, and that ripple begins to restructure your reality. This is not metaphor. This is mechanics. Your life is a waveform. Your energy is a code. And every thought, breath, and choice is either reinforcing the old pattern or rewriting it. So what can you do right now? Begin where you are. Don't wait for the loop to get worse. Don't wait for life to fall apart before you change. Start with something small. Take one looped behavior, just one, and disrupt it. If you always rush through your morning, slow down. If you always speak from defense, speak from vulnerability. If you always doubt yourself, say something different to your reflection today. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be real. Because every real act of presence collapses the wave. And every time you collapse a wave, you open a new path. This is the path of the conscious creator. Not someone who controls everything, but someone who influences reality through alignment, through frequency, through remembering that they are not just a player in the game, they are also the coder. Now, let's go even deeper, because there's a final piece to this, something ancient, something sacred. You've heard of symbols like 3, 6, and 9. You've heard whispers that these numbers hold power. Tesla said, "If you only knew the magnificence of 3, 6, and 9, you would have the key to the universe." And he wasn't being poetic. He was describing a structure, harmonics of the field, the math of consciousness, the secret language of energy. These numbers represent frequency spirals, doorways and alignments in the holographic projection we call life. 3 represents creation, 6 represents expansion, 9 represents completion, the ending of one loop and the start of another. So what would happen if you lived in resonance with those codes? If you structured your day, your breath, your intentions around sacred harmony instead of chaotic programming? The field would recognize you, and not as a lost fragment trying to survive, but as a coherent being ready to participate in the design. This is not superstition. This is structure. This is the new physics of selfhood. And once you remember that, you don't ask the universe to save you. You begin to shape it with your presence. So now, take a breath. Right here. Feel yourself in your body, the weight of it, the memory of every past life, every cycle, every loop. And then, feel the possibility, hovering just beyond the noise. The reality that is already aligned with the version of you that said, "No more." The one who chose to break the pattern, the one who already lives beyond the loop. That version is not in the future, it's here, now within reach. It's waiting for you to stop trying and start tuning. It's waiting for you to stop forcing and start becoming. And the moment you do, the field will respond. Not because you begged it to, but because that's the law. That's the design. So the final question is this: are you ready to live as the version of you who already escaped the loop? If so, act from that place. Decide from that place. Walk, breathe, speak, choose, as though it has already happened. Because the field can't tell the difference between what is real and what is fully embodied. And if you embody freedom, the field must mirror it. Because in the end, you were never stuck. You were only looping through versions of yourself, waiting to remember you've always had the key. You just had to stop repeating the code and start rewriting it. If this message resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment and share what you're feeling tonight. Your likes and subscriptions help this channel grow and reach others on the same path. Stay tuned, stay open, and remember, nothing happening right now is by accident. Until next time, take care and stay aligned with the Mystery School.